Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the PolyAI podcast. Today, I'm here with my co-founder, Shawn. I think, like most nerds, we've been really excited about GPT-5 launching. The moment I opened my app and I saw I no longer had the old models last night,
That's sad. I like them,
I was just amazed by the balls of that man.
What are the
and whole thing.
models you use the most?
I mean, 4.4 mostly. I never really used like deep reasoning that much.
I use all three a lot, actually.
Really?
Yeah. All three, I think that the quality is actually pretty good.
How did you decide how to switch between the three models?
For I use it for stupid task of like rewriting some like internal documents, and for all three, I switched to like deep research more, doing some reasoning. I
always found it way too slow. I'm too impatient. I just couldn't. Honestly, I couldn't.
It's fine.
Like I think
It's not very
that being gone is like fine.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like it wasn't always good either.
No.
Right?
And I'm internally perplexed about when it comes to coding, which model to use. I actually don't know.
Yeah, well, they had the recommendation, right? But it wasn't really clear.
I'm not. Yeah. It's
Well,
confusing.
Look, I think they did the right thing. Like, kind of like going through like the whole set of as we updated the platform and then being a B2B company, having to push things out gradually, re-educate customers, check for backwards compatibility, testing use cases. I kind of envy them for the consumer side.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, we're going to flip it. And I think on the consumer side, I no longer have access to anything. We just,
I didn't say it, yeah.
we spent 10 minutes trying to access 4.0. We can't. On enterprise, they have 60 days.
Yeah.
Right. So at that point, it's gone. So anyone who's built, any kind of backwards compatibility or dependence on it now has to live with the new reality.
Correct.
And I think that's just what market power is, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, it's also like this market is shifting so fast. And then I'm sure that every AI company now is like building adapters to every, API and endpoint these days. And then expecting these endpoints would shift very quickly, and then you'll be able to switch to another model very quickly. I think some of the products is become crazier. Like you click on the LM drop down button, you see like 20 models of it. I was like, how on earth
I think
you are going to handle?
I think that's engineers overindulging themselves because like it's cool, but you never really do, right?
Yeah.
Like this is good. This is like the Apple experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
and here it is.
Yeah. And I think they are doing the right thing with this. But I just before this section, I just go online and then read Reddit, LinkedIn. People are not very happy about it. They have been, some of them has been working with 4.0 for a long time, and it was like, why do you take down my 4.0? He has become my friend. That was actually interesting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think that a lot of our wrapper competitors are now writing and presenting their ability to use Anthropic or OpenAI as an advantage, and we just hope that Dario doesn't get any ideas of putting their chair out as well.
Yeah.
But look, I think it's good. I think we've seen generations of companies do a slow move to the cloud, and then this, and then that, and
Correct.
tech moved fast then, but much slower than now. So I think like this makes a lot of sense. And okay, I think there are 3 tiers. Even the free tier gets like the nano version.
Correct.
On Pro, there's only 2, the thinking one and the regular one that multiplexes.
Correct.
Can you explain, like, for people, what is this mixture of models?
Yeah.
We know more about how it works, or is it all kind of like a black box?
Yeah, I think that based on the official announcement, they have been switching to this like smart routing kind of like model architecture. So basically, you have a bunch of models in the background, and it depends on your query that is going to route your query into different models. Now, I mean, we have seen these kind of architectures before, right? In Siri, you want to talk about that?
Well, no. Look, I mean, I think like it is whatever you put under the hood, right?
Yeah.
So I think you can't talk about what you saw at Siri. Apple is a secret service.
That's true.
But that was an ancient generation of technology.
Well, I didn't work in Apple, so but it's a very similar kind of thing. So I think the interesting to me is that how do they make sure that these smart routing don't become the single failure point? Because like training those kind of models is kind of tricky, and LM is kind of like the way to actually just be a default concierge. You just send it to that model. Now they are building a concierge on top of a concierge, which is I'm very curious to see.
You know what I think is interesting, right? I remember like about maybe 9 months ago, Sam Altman was in a podcast talking about how he needs to get better at product, right? And I think, being startup founders, there's always a sentence like that applies for
True.
one of us, probably both of us.
Yeah.
And we had our new CPO, Chris, join this week, and it's been really fun.
Super exciting.
Yeah, but like the thing that's really, really funny to me is like you bet the whole house on it, then it kind of has to work.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you got the talent density of OpenAI and you bet the whole house on it, you can bet that all constituents that use it will find a way to iterate, and that 5.1 or whatever is not announced but released in the next few days is going to be like a lot of like day and night firefighting for the things they've broken for the important constituencies among their users, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I think what they did is remarkable and is very impressive. I would love to see how that continues to evolve in consumers' mind. And I have already seen like a long thread of like Reddit discussions about how to find these old models back. How do I actually still make the choice? Because it's a consumer behavior they have been stick to in the past 18 months, 2 years now. And now like we are changing back to that simplicity war. It's going to be hard to get back.
And look, I mean, I think in a consumer, fine, right? Like you make a decision. If it's substantially better, you don't need to A/B test it, right? I think what's surprising is it doesn't really cost them all that much to give people longer end of life for like 4.0 models and stuff in enterprise, and yet they're kind of like telling you what they care about. And I saw a bunch of stats now, like at 700 million weekly active users, right?
It's a lot
better than a monthly, right?
Huge.
They got there something like, I think 4 or 5 times faster than Facebook did.
Yeah,
back at the time, right? So they're out there to win it and to be, I think, in the magnificent 7, 6, or whatever the new moniker will be when they when they IPO.
What will be the new shorthands? That'll be interesting.
Yeah,
list of companies.
Yeah, I can't do that anagram. So okay, I think that like looking at everything else that was added, I think we were fixated on a word, sycophantic behavior.
So difficult, but I have been trying to actually pronounce it like before this meeting. But I just realized it's basically a different way to say hallucination.
Yeah,
right.
You almost think like the use of such a strong word is almost there to like hijack the narrative away from the hallucination.
Correct. Yeah. But what the result they have been showing in those experiments are actually very encouraging, because hallucination, or what they call quote unquote sycophantic behaviors, is actually the big problem, and then everyone has been talking about it since the launch of GPT. Hallucination always comes with the LLM. Is actually called occur a lot in the literatures, right? So
I think say what's a hallucination, right?
True. Well, yeah, true. So now I think that they have been really actually put a huge focus to actually address that, and then looking at the result is definitely looking very promising. And the way that they are also planning how do they actually fix these problems is basically a typical machine learning training recipe. You create an evaluation set, and you evaluate on that, and you measure your progress, and you create a training set. And the training set is like, by, for example, an example training set would be a previous image recognition task. You show a picture to the LLM and say, what are the objects inside the picture? And then the LLM would generate the answer for you. Now, you still ask the same question, but you don't send the image anymore. What are the objects in it? And the LM cannot hallucinate now. So there's a very carefully curated set of questions, and then this is also becoming the training data, and you just train a model to get a reward signal.
Okay. Well, look, I mean, I think that is really exciting. It's something that's just like a good direction of travel. I think when you look at kind of like voice in particular, the thing in the app still runs on 4.0 infra with some improvements to like interruptions, tonality, but it feels very tactical. I spent 40 minutes on the way to work going back and forth with it, and as I do most days, and I don't see a very tangible difference. What about you?
I think, it's quite clear that, in this particular release, they have been focusing on hallucination reduction. They have been focusing on the reasoning capability and also the coding capabilities.
So maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah. But I think the voice part, I think it doesn't seem like there have been a lot of changes there. I think that, definitely we know they are working very hard on it, because real-time API is a
I
very
mean, about a
inclusive.
month or two ago
Yeah.
was the big push to voice mode, which really
Correct,
felt
yeah.
transformational. Yeah.
It's really good. I think that voice experience is really amazing. I think real-time API doesn't actually have the same kind of like quality or comparable quality to the actual ones you get in the app. Yeah,
Correct.
but
Yeah.
there are things that things would change in the future. There was also a huge problem with voice mode, is that the instruction following is actually even weaker,
Yeah.
because the audio signal is a lot harder to interpret for LLMs. I think they also did demo video in one of the sections to actually teach the model to say, hey, now just reply back to me in single words, which, to like normal people, that seems like a very simple feature. But if you know how this model works, it's actually not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. It's like strawberry all over again.
Correct. But yeah, I'm very excited to see the actual GPT-5 voice more in the moment to come, because I don't think this is actually their actual flagship voice model release yet.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
I think, kind of like looking at the coding side, where, with all the kind of like recent, Cursor, Lovable,
Correct.
Windsurf being acquired, fired, etc. Right?
Crazy.
It's been, I've not since being a kid in Serbia and watching Latin American telenovelas like Cassandra have I felt that similar things were happening in an actual, environment that I'm closely following.
Yeah.
So like, Anthropic, I feel, has been the backbone of a lot of the other ones.
Correct.
It almost felt like they had, quote unquote, one coding, right? That was like their niche, and that OpenAI is like the consumer thing. Now and I think, paying what, $200 a month for ChatGPT, I've watched you do things with, I no longer really code. So, I lived through this, man.
Yeah.
But what changed now?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I would like to say, I don't think the market consensus is that Claude has won yet. Anthropic has not won yet. This market is so dynamic, so crazy. I almost envy that I'm not in it, but at the same time, my co-founder is also like, oh damn, I'm not in that space, because that moves so fast, but so much.
It is definitely
a lot of excitement.
It is so hot.
Yeah. I think GPT has been, I think OpenAI's coding model has always been there, and I think they started to invest in probably like 1 year or a year ago. And Anthropic has been very focused on this. I spoke to Anthropic people. I told them that, hey, we really look into voice. We want to have a really low latency, and then we managed to optimize our own LLM to actually sub 200 millisecond latency. They were like, okay, if you have sub 200 milli latency, even we have the new update which is coming in summer, it's probably not going to be comparable to that, because they have been quite clear that their focus is on long context reasoning based models, so that you can do really, really good coding tasks. I think this new release of GPT-5 is actually making this coding space even messier, I think. So I actually try to do a mock of our. So we have this agent studio product. We've been doing prototyping with like new agentic features, and then I'm not a very good front-end developer, so I just prompt ChatGPT. What is impressive is that now I actually take a screenshot of our product, send it to ChatGPT, and then say, hey, just create an app that looks like this exactly. Yeah. It creates very similar apps, so you can get it using
React or
it's a JavaScript, based, right? And then you can basically, and then I further to prompt it to say, hey, now build in me a Copilot agent with a sidebar and then with reasoning capabilities. And then once I say this, once I type in this query, you need to help me to do something in the front-end UI. So yeah, GPT-5 model was not announced yesterday when I play around with it. So I use O3 model, which is actually the best coding model back at that time, which I suppose it should be. And then it just generates a lot of bugs. It generates one box. I try to run it, cannot run it. I just ask it to regenerate it again, or fix that bug, and then copy paste that entire error message into it. It generates another bug, fix the previous one, generate a new one. Yeah. So I was struggling to get it to work. This morning, when GPT-5 officially launched, I switched to GPT-5. I asked the model to say, hey, scrap everything you did yesterday, but just redo the whole thing again. It works perfectly. So I think they are definitely catching up in that game. And I don't know. I think we will need the community.
I haven't looked at the benchmarks yet and stuff.
No, yeah. I think the benchmark, I don't know. Benchmark these days is a bit rigged. This model is just like too powerful to actually win those test cases. You know, like I think when Grow got launched, 1-2 months ago, they were the best on numbers. Now, the interesting thing is that OpenAI doesn't share results comparing to other models anymore. They're like, now I'm the winner. I'm going to show the result.
It feels very Trumpian. Everyone is just the best at all times.
Exactly.
You know, all the announcements are starting to feel the same. So, I mean, okay, looking at the coding stuff, I think like the one thing that again is interesting, we don't know for a fact. We can't even know in backtest because they've removed the old ones. But you can't help but wonder that maybe you would have fixed that bug with one of the different models.
It could be,
right?
Yeah, it could be.
And,
I just don't have the time to actually try out.
Maybe this is my crooked Serbian mentality, but is that why it was removed?
Correct.
So you could figure it out with the API.
Correct.
But I think it's really interesting because the other thing I really like about just thinning the number of models is I will buy in and believe that they will give me the best thing that they can give me whenever I call that like source of intelligence, right?
Correct.
Okay, give me 1 or 2 settings maybe for extremely slower but way more powerful thing. That I kind of understand, right? But kind of like needing to know exactly which flavor, it's starting to feel like, an English feast with, 20 sets of cutlery.
Yes.
Hopefully you just need to go from the outside in. But if you didn't know that, you'd be very confused choosing the right fork and spoon and thing for a different dish. So I think that's really, really good, right? Thinking back to kind of like that, not releasing benchmarks and stuff, open source models, right?
Yes.
So they've released, this happened a few days ago.
Correct, yeah. Right? OSS model, they have like 20 billion parameter one. There's also 120.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like at least they're trying to project the confidence around the closed models being so much better that they're just not part of the race. But I can't help but wonder if, another Quen model reaches this performance 3 months from now. But
I think our VP research, Matt, has already looked into that. And what his initial feedback was like, it seemed to be running very fast. So it's actually quite efficient. The model comes with quantized. So it's already been quantized. And the problem is that they don't actually release, so you can dequantize it, but they don't actually release the script to actually let you quantize it back. The problem is fine-tuning require you to actually operate in the quantized, the parameter set. So, it's actually not that easy to actually take that open source model and just fine-tune it on your own data. So I don't know whether this is intentional or it's just like, ignorance in the process, but it'll be very interesting.
I would find it very hard to believe that it's pure ignorance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe for the audience that is less technical, quantization kind of refers to, let's say you had 64-bit numbers, and you need like large precision. You're multiplying these matrices internally to run these neural nets. Quantization is basically you say turn it into 16 bits, so kind of like
much more memory efficient, smaller with
memory efficient. Multiplications happen faster. Models are like overall, then no matter what's in the model, they run faster, right? So it's helpful just for the general kind of like, if you want to run it on edge, if you want to run it and tune it more cheaply. But that quantization comes at the very end of it when you've kind of like settled the training process. There's less, the parameters are not shifting, and then you kind of lose maybe a bit of the precision of the final answer by doing it, but not much. But in doing that, you've kind of like, I'm looking for the right analogy. Maybe.
Now you are more to the technical than me.
No shame.
I'm not sure general audience actually understand that bit. I understand that.
You delete half the numbers at the end, and fair enough. Fair enough.
Very cool.
All right, what have we forgotten about this whole thing here? we've talked about coding. We talked about the kind of like general consumer aspect and the deprecation of the old things.
Correct.
There are menial things like, well, not menial, they're actually very meaningful, but I think the context window and the effective context window increases something like 4 times.
Yeah.
It's still not Gemini level. I think it's like
No, yeah.
250 or 500. Yeah.
Is I think Gemini is 1 million.
1 million. And then I think this update is to
The 400K.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which I think is fine because like, context window doesn't really mean much. You actually need to actually look at the effective context window. Is that whenever
So the announcement is that that's gone up to like something very serious.
Okay, so
Yeah, I think we're excited too. We have it running in Agent Studio already.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm excited about is the reasoning tasks where you don't have to have an extra hyperparameter of.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you still do because sometimes Cloud's better. Sometimes. We'll see. Maybe these guys are better at everything, and for a few weeks we can then settle. But
Correct. Yeah. Well, we'll have to assess the impact of it. I'm pretty sure that you will be better. But with our clients, we just need to A/B test a little bit to actually make sure that's something that we feel kind of comfortable with. So yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you all for listening and joining us in this episode. Thank you, Shawn.
Thank you.
We'll see you all in the next one.
Bye. Yeah.